Welcome to Practical Talk Time. I'm Sandy Wrobel, your host for the show, and we have a very special guest with us, and it is Lisa Paul Streitfeld. She was born in the U.S. and is currently living in Germany. I just met her in person for the first time a few minutes ago and talked to her maybe 5 minutes last night on the phone. So welcome to the show, Lisa Paul Streitfeld.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm sure Usha's going to be hoping that she could have been here today. Both of us are into astrology. And I guess we have a common friend, Ron Lieberman.
Right.
And we know him through the Astrological Society of Connecticut. And we've been trying to have him come on the show, and he keeps putting us off, you know. And when I went to last month's meeting, he said, would you like to have Lisa Paul Streitfeld on? And I said, well, who is she? And he said, oh, she is a journalist and she's into astrology now. So I said, oh, well, we'd love to have her on.
But I have to say, I mean, more, because Ron's background is physics. So that's a real common interest we have. I've been working a lot with physics and art, and yeah, astrology comes into the picture. Because astrology, you know, provides this kind of geometric foundation that I can't find anywhere else. But
right, and I always liked math when I was going to college application many years ago. I had put secondary ed in one part, elementary ed in another, and the secretary from the college called and said, you have two different things. What do you want to do? I said, well, I'm not sure. She said, I don't want to influence you, but most girls become elementary eds. And I said, all right, I'll be an elementary ed.
oh my God, that sounds like ancient history.
I think today they would never say it.
Most girls want, yeah, okay. Yeah, now girls can be physicists, yeah. So that's what I've been trying to work out. Well, mostly because as a journalist, you don't come right out in front and write about astrology. Not for mainstream newspaper, which is what I was working for here in Connecticut. But it was always underlying my analysis of, I was writing about art as an art critic. So that really gave me an inside view. Well, I mean, definitely inside, what's going on under the surface. Mm-hmm. And then I developed, because I couldn't develop any kind of theory of astrology and present it in an academic framework. I did it through physics and you know, developed it through the Heisenberg principle, and that's where I got in a lot of conversations with Ron about that.
And what is the Heisenberg principle?
Well, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, I was applying that to art because there I was writing about art at the change of millennium, and as an astrologer we know, as you know, we're entering a new age, the changing of the ages from Pisces to Aquarius,
right,
which, as Joseph Campbell told us in the 1980s, which, you know, the forefront of the New Age movement, mm-hmm, that a new age brings in new archetypes. So where are we going to find those new archetypes but in art? So that was what a self-appointed task of mine, my mission, which was sort of crazy. But, you know, once I started, I couldn't stop, was to find what was coming through in art. And Connecticut was so special, such an incredible opportunity, because in coming back here, I just started writing freelance and then started writing regularly for the Advocate, Greenwich Time.
Uh-huh.
And that, of course, that was owned by Tribune, that also owns the Hartford Courant. So I went to there. Later on, I started writing pretty regularly for them, art and drama reviews, also some dance. But Connecticut really is a special place because it's the grassroots, but you're so close to New York. So yes, any artist that's operating in Connecticut would have to have knowledge of what's going on in the center of the art world, New York. But at the same time, they're very influenced by something grassroots, and that's where I was told to find the new archetype. So that pretty much sums up the foundation I created here in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. That was from, I started in 1997, and I ended that in 2005.
Oh, so it's pretty recently that you had lived in Connecticut.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I only left Connecticut in 2011. It's very
really?
recently,
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
I was still living in my family house, and that's how I could afford to do what I was doing, because there's no pay in it. My mother used to say, if you stopped writing from the unconscious, maybe you could get a job, maybe you could make a living, but once you start, I just couldn't get out. It was sort of became a lifelong commitment.
Right, and there are many astrologers that are like that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
Well,
they came from families that had money, and they
Yeah.
had the ones who can do it every day. They develop their clients, and but
Yeah.
they also do a lot of the research.
Right. I mean, that's really the area that's not, as we know, not enough is being done at all. And of course, you're not going to find any funding. Well, maybe like in the UK actually is really a lot further ahead than the US in funding astrological research.
Well, they have I'm not familiar, but I know a little bit.
Yeah.
They have the astrological schools there.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to someone that the English, we have the big conferences, they seem to offer a lot more, and even their books. Like here, an author might write maybe 3 or 4 books, where the English will put out one big book with a lot of information in it. And interestingly, I don't know if it's true, but they correlated it to our government, that it's socialistic in Great Britain, and here
Yeah.
we're a republic, and that maybe unconsciously they're figuring that they need to share everything with everyone.
That's very interesting.
I
yeah.
never thought of it.
Well, it's also the commercial aspect of the U.S. You're always trying to reach that mass public, and the U.K. is much more refined. It's a tradition much more in the U.K. that cult has been much more acceptable. And of course, in America, we know that the Masons founded this country.
Yes.
And astrologers know that it was all set up according to astrology. So, but that to me is the big secret that's coming out.
Right, and I think it's
Yeah.
the 33rd
Exactly.
degree. A lot of them are, the lower Masons don't believe it had anything to do with astrology. But you can see with the Masonry, the geometry, because a lot of it, the aspects are all based on angles.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of my work is actually going back to ancient Sumer. And I mean, once you start going into this, it's like I said, it's hard to get out. So my research took me back to ancient Sumer, and then it brought me back to the Templars, and I did a project with the direct descendant of the founder of the Knights Templar. He exists. He has the same name. And I was summoned to him in New York, and I did a project with him. And
I thought they were gone.
No, it's it's the oldest lineage in the world, and I was face to face with it. It still exists, but so that's another. That's getting into a lot of heavy topics about what's going on.
You should come here and lecture for one of our astrological associations.
Okay.
Seriously.
Give away the secrets, yeah.
Maybe the people at large wouldn't be interested in all going in that deeply, but...
Well, the thing is, it's really our origins as a human people. I mean, when you go back to Sumer and you look at the iconography there in ancient Sumer, this is the origin of our civilization. I mean, it all started in Sumer. So that is where, in looking for the age of Aquarian archetypes, I was immediately drawn back to Sumer, which is funny because usually you have to sort of go step by step. You have to go through the Greeks,
Right.
back to Egypt, and all these occult practices, secret societies are really based on Egyptian archetypes. Egypt never interested me. I mean, it was only for Sumer, but that was pre-patriarchal. I mean, that's where you have to really go back to get to post-patriarchal.
And for our audience, can you tell us where Sumer is?
Sumer is Iraq, so, it's not a coincidence that there's a war going on in Iraq just at this change in millennium when the new archetype is emerging. So Sumer is between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what's now Iraq. And that's very fertile land. That's where the original Garden of Eden was. And
Is that also referred to as Babylon or Babylonia?
well, that was later. I mean,
later.
Babylon came later, but
Same area, though.
yeah.
Different name.
Yeah. Baghdad, So it may be a little further north. But that's where I was, and so that's what I started looking for. I mean, it was coming through because I was doing experimental fiction, also totally from the unconscious. And then, mounds and mounds of it. I actually did a performance where I stacked them all up, which was about this high, standing up, of my mounds of fiction that's all unpublished. But
Unpublished.
Just that frenzy need to write and get this kind of connection to this energy, archetypal energy. And then I related that to Venus and the cycles of Venus, which even all astrologers do. That's a whole nother sort of field called shamanic astrology. And there was somebody who came and did a workshop in Connecticut back in 1994 or something. And that's how I got into that. And
that would be more the healing and
well,
the shamanic.
tracking, but it's really, Venus makes this perfectly symmetrical orbit in the shape of a pentagram, which is why Venus was associated with the pentagram, and the pentagram the Christians associated with the devil, because Venus would be about lust, and that's what the devil was associated with. But when you go back to Sumer, they had a mythology around Venus and around the Venus cycles, and Venus has such a perfectly symmetrical orbit, and plus she can be seen, so you can really track her movements, and they created mythology around that in ancient Sumer. So this was Venus of the evening star and Venus of the morning star, and the evening star would be the dark face of Venus, and the morning star would be the lighter face of Venus. And now you're seeing this come up mostly in the pop music world, like with Beyonce. She has this dark, self that would be the dark evening star, and then the self that she identifies with.
Isn't there something about some astrologers believe that if Venus is rising before the sun in the morning, that it would be a time more likely for war, and if it rises after the sun?
Yeah. That's totally the same mythology, because Venus is the morning star, is very like Aries. It's very out there, charging out there, and very
not what
aggressive.
You would think of Venus being.
Yeah, and the idea of it rising, that's a whole mythology right there in the physical, physical trajectory of the planet.
So it's almost maybe like the sun is behind her, pushing her with that solar force?
Yeah, but then that's what happened in 2012. There was all this prediction about the Mayan calendar coming to an end. But what was also going on in 2012 that the Mayans knew about, because they tracked Venus. Venus can be really tracked far ahead of time.
And easy to see even at night when it's,
exactly.
or in the morning when it's...
I mean, that's the duality. You can track her into the future, but you can also see her in the present. So that Venus transit of the sun that we had on June 7th, 2012, that was a very mythological. I wrote a lot about that coming in and what the meaning of that was. And that was not really even being recognized by the 2012 people. And I know, because I was involved with the 2012 people.
Oh, but the Astrological Society has someone that is into the Mayan astrology.
Very good.
So
it's a very good group. I went to about 5 of your programs. Actually, ironically, I only discovered it when I was, about to leave Connecticut. It always seems to be like that.
Right, and you can't always tell by the title, because some of them are very good. People would enjoy it even if they don't know astrology, and then some of them are more advanced. And I take it back. I don't think we should have you here for a lecture. I think it would be that you should do both a lecture and an all-day workshop.
Oh, good.
Because I can tell already that you have so much wealth of information and so much research.
Well, thanks.
Have you ever written for the Mountain Astrologer?
No. I mean, this is the thing, because I was a journalist, and it always seemed that, that was my task, my self-appointed task, was to bring this message to the layman, which was incredibly hard. I can't tell you how long it took before my editor, or did he ever allow me to write Age of Aquarius inside of a review, know? So, I guess I just had to... There's a difficulty in my chart that I had to live out in life,
But you must have a well-aspected and very strong Mercury.
Yeah, very elevated. It's the only good aspect I have in my entire chart, so thank you.
Really? I don't know. I don't know what your chart is. It just said Mercury had to be there with the writing and the research.
Yeah, Mercury in the 10th house in Capricorn.
Oh.
Pluto's on top of it, so yeah.
You should be your own publishing company.
I am, but
are.
I'm just actually a little bit exhausted from having to do the whole thing on my own. I mean, to bring in these myths, I mean, sometimes it amazes me why isn't it being done more? I mean, we all went through New Age. I don't really know, because I was in Los Angeles during the New Age, so I don't really know about the rest of the country, but Joseph Campbell on PBS, and it's like, and then these younger kids are really into it, you know, even kids graduating now from college. So what, you know, anyway, that's what I'm doing now. I'm getting a PhD, and that's what I'm doing, is bringing in the mythology. But what I had to do first is track where it went wrong. I had to go back to the archaeology, is how we term it. And how did astrology get left out? How did the feminine get left out of Western philosophy? So I had to go back and track it, and pick up those traces. It just seemed necessary to do that. How do you bring in the new mythology? The Aquarian mythology is all about the equal partnership. Well, how do you have equal partnership if you're still denying the feminine? So you have to go back and bring in the I mean, for me, I had to go back and see where the feminine was denied and left out. And I mean, and that's what I'm on the cusp of now. So we'll see what happens. But
we're in the very early ages of the age of Aquarius, and of course we've had.
Do you agree that we're in the age of Aquarius?
Yes, and I'd say the very early ages, and I think some of the things that we have currently are going to be changed and put in the background, and it'll be a conflict, I think, when anything new comes in.
Yeah, of course.
And the age of Aquarius really should be more of the equality, because if we look back far enough, women were the ones who were thought of being the ones in control, and they gave birth, and they weren't knowledgeable of why that happened, so they thought it was something special. But now, it should be that there would be more equality.
To me, that's the essence of it. I'm Aquarius, so I mean.
You're ahead of your time.
Thank you. I'm tired of hearing that, but
my Aquarius is my third house cusp.
Yeah, that's what
and
we're doing.
I'm progressed into Aquarius. It must be, I don't know, I haven't looked at my progress chart, probably around 7 or 8 degrees of Aquarius.
Good. I'm my sun.
Really?
So for all these people that don't understand what that means, that's for the people that know astrology. But yeah, no, you know, and here I am. I mean, I'm coming out of the closet now. I've really kept it secret. I mean,
why did you think you had to keep it secret?
Oh, you can't be an astrologer in academia. Forget it. No. I found a very quirky, unique, brilliant program in Switzerland that I'm doing it, which has the most brilliant minds of Europe. Yeah, it's called European Graduate School. But even there, you know, astrology's not. But we'll see. I mean, what happens.
And what are you getting your doctorate in?
Well, it's in, what am I saying? Philosophy and media. So,
okay.
Yeah, and then I'm writing on the Übermensch, but I'm taking Nietzsche's Übermensch and bringing that as the Aquarian Age archetype. I think Nietzsche really was onto it. He had Saturn. He had Saturn in Aquarius, so in Nietzsche declaring the Übermensch, he never came out and said it's about the equality of male and female. You just didn't do that, or it wasn't even in the male mind to do that. But that's the archaeology I'm doing, that he was proclaiming in the Übermensch, which is it's translated in English as Superman, but I don't do that. I use it in the original German. It's non-genderized. Die Übermensch is male and female, and that's what's important about it.
Now, I also have to bring up that you're fluent in what languages?
Well, I'm not fluent in German, but I need German in order to understand German philosophy. Right. You really need to study German.
Well, even if you get into psychology, if you want to go far enough, you'd have to have the German.
Yeah, I mean, German is such a precise language that you can understand why psychology was developed by Germans, because you can make such slips through the change of preposition and through the change of gender that it can tell a lot about what's going on in your subconscious mind. It's such a logical language, you know, it's like math.
I don't know German, but my neighbors across the street are from Germany.
Okay.
And in fact, they're going back soon. They go every year for at least 6 weeks. They have a house there too, and one here. And
yeah.
I called Helga. She's out gardening, so.
Ask her about the German language, yeah.
Oh, she knows.
But they don't know when they grow up with it. It's like, you know, you grow up with the language, you don't really. The problem with the German language is you have to have a subject and an object, so that you immediately have this duality in speaking. And what we want to get to with the new archetype, the Aquarian archetype, is a holism. So that's what you have to really go back and investigate the German language and how that influenced German philosophy. And then And why did mysticism get left out? Because, you know, they really rejected Jung, Carl Jung, that brought mysticism into psychology. He was totally rejected, though, by the continental philosophy. So these are things I was aware of on some level, but I didn't know why. So I had to go back to the source to find out. So that's where my grassroots experience in Connecticut took me to. It was unexpected, I know.
Oh, overwhelming. I take it that journalists, too, besides writing, must do an awful lot of reading and research. And
No, not really.
No?
Well, especially now. I mean, journalism has descended to such a low level, right? Gossip. I mean, it's so funny
Well,
living
it
out of the
depends.
country, and what you read online is so little of what's in the whole newspaper, and it's totally.
For the next show, I have the paper with me. There's a journalist that is in contact with someone. It's a long story with the Reagan administration. I have her name written down. And she talked about before she met with this person, he wrote to her and she had his handwriting analyzed and did a lot of research on him. It was just mind-boggling what she went through. And she wrote, I think it's 2 books. I think one she published, and someone said it sounds like the name of this man, and that's how she contacted him. A journalist who was writing a fictional story, and it had more truth to it than you would imagine. So she did contact him, and I believe it's either he wrote his memoir or she's writing it, but it's only online. I just heard this like 2 nights ago.
Interesting.
So,
well, yeah, I mean, now
she
with
sounds like you, that she did all of this, and then she was clever. She sent him a cap. He was from Wisconsin. I forget, it must have been like I don't know. She sends him a cap with something embroidered on it. I forget what it was, if it was a team or whatever. And so he takes a picture of it and mails it to her so that she actually had a picture of him. She's never met him in person.
They could do a whole Instagram, and that would be a new mythology they're developing.
Well, it was on the radio, and I don't know where he lives, and they said he might show up in New York, Los Angeles, or in Toronto. He did come on. It was a long program, several hours, and they didn't say whether it was, I think it may have been via telephone. With the technology today, we could have you, too, if we're in a TV show, or I guess we could have a computer and show you on the computer.
Yeah, I mean, this is what's really intriguing me now, is how new mythologies are being created just in cyberspace, and how to, but again, academia seems rather removed in even being in a space where they want to interpret what's going on.
We only have 5 minutes left for this particular show. We'll continue on the next one. I've also thought, like, we're doing all the technology, we're not as close physically necessarily to people. That, to me, it's like the forerunner of more travel in outer space, which, you know, and then even thinking about dancing, where people, even in the 50s, that it was close dancing next to each other, and then gradually came further and further apart, and now you could see people just dancing by themselves, or not even interested, just listening to music. And you said that you did some work also with art and with dance. Yeah,
I mean, well, but I want to address what you're talking about is the Aquarian age, where that's what we've always been warned about, where first of all, technology will take over the human, technology ruling you instead of the humans ruling technology.
Right.
And that's something we need to look at just on the personal level, you know, in
Artificial
all of our
intelligence.
lives. Yeah, being ruled by our cell phone ringing and this kind of thing. And then the other thing is the physical distance. I'm Aquarius, and I know about that. You know, we don't like to get too close. But that's where the vibration comes in. That's more powerful. So it's harder to, it's like we need space. As our aura gets stronger and more infused with this archetype.
And you were born Aquarian, which is different than my son being progressed there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a lifelong thing to try to grow into your sun sign, right? Yeah.
And mine came about, just about the time shortly after I retired.
Interesting. Freedom. Yeah.
Oh, true, yes.
Yeah.
I shouldn't look so surprised at that.
No, your eyes just lit up. See, Aquarius, you know, I see that energy, that vibration.
Yes, and there is a certain freedom that I feel although I never hid being into astrology or into metaphysics or anything when I was working. In fact, my cousins were surprised at my retirement dinner that people spoke about it. My cousin said, "You told them about it?" And I said, "I never kept it a secret."
But that's liberating.
It's Mercury and Sag, probably. You just let it all out.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, and it opposes Uranus. So
that explains it. The
Yeah.
Uranus opposition, yeah.
Yeah. So I never even gave it, a thought. But now that I'm retired, it's things like I can do. That's how I got involved at Comcast here. How I met Usha, and then we were asked to. We were on one show, and I was asked if I could come the following Thursday. And I said, "No, I have my astrology meeting." And Usha said, "Oh, you're into astrology?" And she says, "Oh, I am too." I said, "Oh, you want to come to the meeting?" So she went with me, and she joined the group, and that's how ultimately we met Ron Lieberman, and it's how you're here.
We came full circle.
Yes.
From
over quite a few numbers of years, but it's just interesting what happens. And I was already involved with the Jamboree Music Center. In fact, this Saturday we're having a concert, our spring concert, a Beethoven concert. And so I'm freer to do more with that, but mostly with the astrology. I used to do more. It's like I'm into many different things.
Yeah.
But I guess that's a Sag rising, right? Instead of being focused all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, that's freedom. I mean, I wish I had that
We have
ability to just do it.
1 minute left. I think we could probably do 10 shows. Well, anything you want to say quickly about this show, and then we'll be going on.
Oh, great. Thank you. Now that I know all that Sagittarius, I feel liberated. Now I know why. Yeah. Because it really has been a struggle, keeping this astrology a secret and trying to infuse my knowledge through another language. It's been a real struggle. As you know, astrology it's its own language.
Absolutely, and it's a non-ending study. You never get to the end of it. Well, thank you very much. I'm so happy to meet you, and we'll be doing another show in a few seconds. Okay, thank you for watching. And if you have any questions about our program with Lisa Paul Streitfeld, you can always email us at practicaltalktime@yahoo.com. Thank you for watching.